Assalamu alaikum students. I, Dr. Wajeeha, is your course instructor for the Kinesiology 2. I welcome you all on the online learning system introduced by University of South Asia. Today I will teach you the passive movement. First we will go through the basic introduction of the passive movement. Then we will study the techniques and the protocols. After that we will study the types of passive movement. In this we will study the effects and uses of each type of the passive movement. What are the passive movements? When the movements are performed in the unrestricted range of motion by some external force due to muscular weakness, or when the muscle is voluntarily reduced to relaxed position, it is known as the passive movement. External force can be applied by a physiotherapist. A patient can also apply the external force. Different types of machines in the physiotherapy also help in the application of external force, and the gravity is also a very important external force, which cannot be nullified and neglected. These are the indications for the passive movement. The first one is the muscular weakness. Why there is muscular weakness? It can be due to muscular injury, inflammation, in case of neuromuscular deficiency, comatose patient and the bedridden patient. In the comatose and the bedridden patient, we provide passive movement to prevent the atrophy of the muscles. The next one is for the assessment and the examination purpose. Before going to give a physiotherapy plan to a patient, we have to check the patient properly. For this, we perform the passive movement to check the end-phase stability and the muscular strength and to assess the limitation in the range of motion. The next one is to teach an exercise plan. Suppose you are instructing a patient about a home exercise plan, but he's still not able to understand those movements. You can perform those movements by passive movement for better learning. Then the patient preparation before the application of all kinds of techniques, passive movements are performed. Now the techniques and the protocols. There are 6 techniques or the protocols, both are the same, technique or the protocols. The first one is the starting position, the second one is the fixation, the third one is the support, the fourth one is the traction, the fifth one is the range of motion, and the sixth one is the speed and duration. We'll study each type of protocol one by one. Starting position. It must be comfortable and suitable both for the patient and the therapist. Why therapist? Because the therapist is performing these movements. So the start position of the therapist must be comfortable and suitable. It will help to gain the patient concentration and effective performance and provides the better results. The next one is the fixation. Fixation means the state of immobility. When a body and the part, when the muscle is not moving, it is said to be fixate. In the passive movement, we fixate the origin of a muscle or the proximal joint. Suppose we are performing the movements of elbow joint. The proximal joint is the shoulder joint. We have to fixate the shoulder joint and perform the movement of the elbow. It can be done by 2 methods, the active fixation and the passive fixation. As the name indicated, active fixation, it can be produced by the co-contraction of muscle, while in the passive fixation, some external thing is required, which can be a strap, belt, sandbags, etc. The next one is support. Patient body must be fully supported with a comfortable grip. If the grip is painful, patient will not allow you to perform movements. It will help to gain the patient confidence by reducing the load on the muscle and to counterbalance the effect of the gravity. We can provide support with the 2 methods. The first one is the manually and the second one is the mechanically. Manually, it can be provided by the therapist hand or the patient on limb. Suppose I am going to perform the elbow movements with passive movement. So these are the active movements. This is the flexion. When I'm moving my hand towards my shoulder, this is the flexion. When I'm moving it away, this is the extension. So I'm going to perform the passive movement. I will hold my hand, forearm, to the wrist. I will move it towards this shoulder. Then I'll move it away from the shoulder. This is the extension. So this is the flexion and this is the extension. So patient can perform the limbs movement by its contralateral limb. Mechanically, it can be provided different kinds of sling, sandbags, polished surfaces, and the water. Traction. Exertion of the pulling forces on the muscle is known as the traction. Through traction, stretch reflex is produced, and after each stretch reflex, there is a stronger muscular contraction. So it will help to gain the muscle strength and the muscle contraction through the passive movements. The next technique and the protocol is speed and duration. There is no thumb rule for the speed and duration, but yes, it varies according to the patient and condition of the disease. And it also depends upon the if required effect. Most of the time, 3 sets are performed, and each set 10 repetitions are performed by adding rest period to avoid the fatigue. Now we'll study the classification of the passive movement. Passive movement is divided into 2 categories. The first one is the relaxed passive movement, which is divided into 2 categories, physiological movement and the accessory movement. The second category is the passive manual mobilization, which is further divided into 3 types: mobilization of joint, manipulation of joint, and the controlled sustained stretching. Physiological movements. When the physiotherapist moves the part of the body smoothly and accurately in the available range, it is said to be the physiological movement. These are the movements of bony levers. Suppose this is my wrist joint and I'm going to perform the passive movement. I will keep it my forearm with my trunk to fixate it, and then I will hold my hand and then move. This is the extension and this is the flexion. So I'm supporting and moving the extension, and then in the opposite I am moving the flexion. So a therapist performs complete range with the fully support. Flexion and extension at the elbow. This is the elbow joint and this is the flexion. This is the extension. So I will hold it. This is the passive movement at the flexion, and this is the passive extension at the elbow. Adduction and abduction at the hip joint. The things which are very important before the application of the physiological movement for the therapist. The first one is the structure of anatomy of the structure. The second one is end feel of the joint. The third one is the range of motion, and the fourth one is the pattern of movement. If you are not familiar with the anatomy of joint, how you can perform the movement? Suppose in case of wrist joint, the anatomy of the wrist joint allows the 4 ranges. The one is the flexion, the second one is the extension, the third one is the ulnar deviation, and the fourth one is the radial deviation. So there is no other movement. So if you are going to overstretch a muscle in the wrong direction, you will injure the patient. The next is the accessory movement. Accessory movement, those movements which are the part of normal physiological movement but cannot be performed isolatedly by the patient itself, but a therapist can perform. It means in all kinds of physiological movements, there are some kind of accessory movements. The patient is not able to differentiate and isolate. But being a physical therapist, we can perform these accessory movements. These are the movements of the joint surfaces. So these are very localized, small range movements. The examples are sliding, rolling, and the spinning. Now we'll study each type. The first is the diagram of the shoulder joint, in which there is a glenoid cavity with a flat surface, and the head of humerus is a rounded one. So when there is the abduction at the head of at the humerus, at the shoulder joint, the head of humerus is moving downwards. So the movement of humerus is abduction, is the physiological movement, while the movement of the head of humerus is the accessory movement. The one diagram is showing the movement of a ball on an inclined surface, and the second one is showing the movement of a square part on the inclined surface. In case of the round, always a new part of the round surface meets with a new part of the inclined surface. This is known as the roll. And in the next one, the same part of square surface meets with the new part of the inclined surface. This is known as the glide. Accessory movements. Now we will study each type of accessory movement: the rolling, sliding, and the spinning. When the new points on one surface meets with the new point on the other surface, it is known as the rolling. So if the round surface is moving, the new part is moving, and the new part meets with a new part on the other surface. The next one is sliding. In this, This part is moving and the same surface is touching the new part of the rounded surface. The spinning is the static rotation about the fixed axis. So this is the spinning. Effects and uses of the passive physiological movement. The first one is prevention from adhesion formation. The second one is preserve the memory of pattern. Third one is maintain the range of motion. The fourth one is improve the blood circulation. And the fifth one is the relaxation. We will study each effects and uses separately. In case of non-mobility, there are chances of adhesion formation in the synovial joint, and it can be prevented by the passive range of motion. One well-given passive movement at the frequent interval of time is sufficient, but for the practice and for the better results, twice a day is performed. The next one is preserve the memory of pattern. When the muscle is not able to contract, passive range of motion has to preserve the pattern of movement by stimulating the kinesthetic receptors. The next one is the range. Maintain the range of motion. If the muscle do not contract, it may lead to the adaptive shortening of the muscle, which will lead to the contracture formation. So the passive movements are performed twice daily to maintain the extensibility of the muscle in the available pain-free range. The next one, how these movements help in improvement of the blood circulation. So whenever we perform the passive range of motion, it puts slight mechanical pressure on the thin walls of vessels which are passing over the joints. So it will help to improvement in the movement of venous drainage and the lymphatic drainage. So the quick, continuous, rhythmical passive range of motion with the elevation of lymph help in the reduction of edema. So keep in mind, whenever you are performing passive range of motion for the reduction of edema, keep the body parts elevated. It will help to reduction of the edema. The next effect is the relaxation. Whenever you are performing continuous rhythmical passive movement, it will always soothe and relax the muscles. So it can also be used in the relaxation techniques of the patient. The next technique is the passive manual mobilization, and we will study the mobilization of joint first. These are small, repetitive, rhythmical, oscillatory, localized accessory movements which are always performed by the therapist in various amplitude within the available range. And these movements are under the patient control. So whenever we're performing these movements on the patient, patient can stop us at any time. But these are graded according to the part of available range. These are the effects and uses of the mobilization. In case of pain, spasm, and protective spasm, it is used to stimulate the neurophysiological and the mechanical effects. Neurophysiological effects reduce the pain, and the mechanical effects improve the nutrients, and the new nutrients will also reduce the pain. It is used in the hypomobile joint to increase the joint play or the joint mobility. In case of the functional immobility, when the patient do not move the limb for a period of time, these movements can help in preventing the degeneration of the muscles. The next type is the manipulation of the joint. Manipulation of the joint can be performed by the therapist and the surgeon, but it depends upon the condition of the patient. If the adhesions are not breakable, if the patient is in severe pain and patient is not allowing the physiotherapist to apply a force, then surgery is required. But if it is doable, a physiotherapist can perform it. Manipulation by the physiotherapist are very accurate, localized, single, quick, decisive movements. Mobilization was small, repetitive, but the manipulation is single, quick, decisive movement of small amplitude and high velocity thrust. And these are not under the patient control. While the manipulations by the surgeons are performed under anesthesia to gain the range, and after this procedure, the gained range is maintained by the physiotherapist. Now we will study the effects and uses of the manipulations. Manipulation under general anesthesia helps to eliminate the pain of the patient. It will also eliminate the protective spasm and allow the surgeon to apply the greater force to break down the adhesions. But in case of multiple adhesions, The full range is progressively regained by a series of manipulations to prevent the excessive trauma and to prevent the swelling. Because these swelling further lead to the new formation of new adhesions. Manipulation can also be used for the relocation or the reposition of the sublux joint. Suppose there is dislocation of the shoulder joint, so it can be relocated by the manipulation. The next and the last type of passive manual mobilization is the controlled sustained stretching. When an external force is applied to the contracted structure for a longer period of time with the functional pattern of movement, it will add the effect of stretching and lengthen the muscle. Movement can be gained by the stretching of adherence, lengthening of the muscle, or inhibition of the tendon protective reflex. So these controlled sustained stretching techniques not only lengthen the muscle, but it also lengthen the break down the adherence and inhibit the tendon protective reflex. Steady and sustained stretching is used to overcome the spasticity of the limbs. Example is of the hemiplegic patient. There are two types of paralysis. The one is the flaccid paralysis, and the second one is the spastic paralysis. In the spastic paralysis, patient muscles are very tight in the contracted position in the spasm. So this technique is really helpful in the lengthening of the muscle. Slow and sustained stretching produce muscle relaxation, and when the muscle is relaxed, it will help to gain the length. It can also increase the extensibility of the shortened ligaments, fibers, sheaths of the muscles, and the fascia. So it is applicable for the muscle, for the ligaments, for the fascia, for the fibrous sheath of the muscles. Next is the example of the controlled sustained stretching. This is the picture of turnbuckle plaster for the elbow. It is used for the controlled sustained stretching of the forearm muscles. The next example is CDEV shoes. These shoes are used for the talipes equinovarus. This is a congenital clubfoot disease of the newly born. In this condition, shoes are worn by the newly born baby, and it will help to reduce the deformity. Now there is a small variant. This is a homework for you. Write down the answer into 2 or 3 lines. What are the passive movements? What are the differences of the mobilization and manipulation, as both are the same, almost same kind of techniques? Name any disease in which controlled sustained stretchings can be applied. Homegoing lesson, the quote of the day. If it is important to you, you will find a way. If not, you will find an excuse. So this is also applicable for our new learning system. If you really want to learn, if you really want to get education, you will definitely find a way to take your lectures. But if you are not interested, you have many excuses. Successful people always find ways. Hope you will also find a ways and learn through this system. Thank you.